You know, you really deserve what's going to happen to you, you know.
What's going to happen?
You're going to make a wonderful contribution to society.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Haidt.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week we are talking about a film that defies interpretation, explanation. There's not a lot of words. I'm trying to find the words to describe this film without being disrespectful. Just kidding, I love this movie, but I wanted to quote that song.
This movie is a sexy bitch, so
it's a sexy bitch. Damn, girl. This movie is Society. Came out in 1989, and Sort of. Apparently, this is an 80s movie to me.
Yeah.
Sydney watched it somewhere, and it said it came out in 1992, and I'm just like, no, this is full 80s. Look at his mullet. Look at Bill's mullet.
Yeah, I don't know when they filmed exactly, but apparently they finished production in 1989, and then it was like released in Europe earlier. It was released in Europe in like 1989, 1990, but for some reason it didn't come out in America until 1992.
For some reason? I know many reasons.
Yeah,
why they shelved this shit for 3 years.
But also, were norms so different in 1992 than they were in 1989? Like, I feel like they would have gotten away with more in 1989. You know what I mean? I feel like things were slightly more lawless in 1989.
It was that cusp year, you know? It was almost the 90s, so people were almost doing that. I have no idea what I was going to say. But yeah, okay, so I told you guys not to look into this movie before watching it, and I hope you didn't. But for the audience, like, obviously you need to watch this movie before we talk about it. But here's the synopsis from IMDb. An ordinary teenage boy discovers his family is part of a gruesome orgy cult for the social elite. Oh my god, it gives it all away in the fucking synopsis.
Here's the thing, though.
Did you not read the synopsis?
No,
before?
I didn't read a fucking damn thing. I went in blind as hell, and that's how you should do this. So I'm sorry I even just said that.
I forgot that you told us not to look at anything. I never really watch a trailer or anything before I watch the movie. Sometimes I'll watch the trailer afterwards to see like how they set it up. But I did read the tagline because it's the same tagline on Amazon Prime, which is where I watched the movie. And I saw the like preview picture, which is like two weird faces morphing together. And still somehow I was completely unprepared for what this movie was. So I will say going in blind, sure, great. Even going in with some information couldn't possibly
prepare
set you up for what is to come.
No,
because I mean,
there's no way to prepare for this.
I'm glad.
It says family's part of a gruesome orgy cult. Sure, I was ready for an orgy cult. I was not ready for even the early scenes of the setup that we get. Even when Bill is like talking to David Blanchard on the beach and hearing the recording and what is implied on the recording, not prepared for that. And that happens early on. You know what I mean?
Very early. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I wasn't prepared for when, like, basically the first scene where we meet David Blanchard, who is Bill, the main guy's sister's ex-boyfriend or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, creepishly hiding in her closet, and he goes to attack her, and we're just like, what is happening? Is he the bad guy? Like,
very creepy, auspicious start there. I mean, like, I get it, Bill. You're trying to, not Bill. I'm so sorry. Blanchard. You're trying to, like, uncover the scandal of the fucking millennia right now. And so you are motivated and you want to question your girlfriend that you want to protect from joining this scary, gruesome orgy cult for the social elite, to quote the synopsis. But, you know, stalking is not the answer, certainly.
Actually, the thing is, so I watched this movie last night for the first time, and then I watched it again this morning so that I could take notes, because last night I was just like, no notes, just vibes. When you rewatch the scene, you realize that, like, the confronting her was maybe kind of coincidental / a cover. He was really just there to plant the microphone on her earring. So I don't know how much he even like cared about saving her in particular, or if he just cared about figuring out what the heck was going on.
Yeah, me too.
But it's
I want to
got
know
a whole thing.
I want to know like what tipped him off to be like, yes, something afoot is going on here.
I'll tell you right now, no daughter should have that much sexual chemistry with their parents. It's palpable. It is palpable. You hang out with her and her parents for one fucking minute. You're like, this is weird as fuck. This is very strange.
You're not wrong.
Very intimate.
This movie is just really strange, and it like makes my brain itch in a way that I feel like it reminds me of something, but I can't put my finger on what in any kind of like conscious state. Like I feel like it gave me kind of weird dreams last night, and I don't know if it was just like my brain inventing like a similar story, or if it was like on some way there's another movie I've seen that my brain was trying to like catch up to. I went back through the movies that we've covered on Spooky Tuesday. I went back through the movies that we've watched with our OG Spooky crew to see if there was some other like 80s-ish movie. I couldn't quite, like, looking at our list, there was nothing that was like, oh, that's it. But I mean, if I had to say the vibes, I would say like a little bit The Faculty, a little bit Nightmare on Elm Street in the sense of like what's real, what's not. A little bit From Dawn Till Dusk, the vampire movie.
Oh my god, let's cover that on the
pod. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit of all these things kind of mishmashed together, but then also at least if you believe IMDb, the whole point of the movie is that they wanted to do the shunting scene at the end, and they kind of reverse engineered the storyline from there. So they're like not super invested in what the writing is or what the plot is or the rules of it all. And so they're like, don't worry about that too much. We just are really interested in the weird body horror gore, and fair enough. But so you're like trying to piece together the vibes, and it's like weird on purpose. Like you're maybe not supposed to be able to, not in a way where they were like, let's be confusing on purpose, but on a way where they were just like, we don't care that much.
You're like, this is just a means to an end. Like
yes.
we just have to do this part, so it's not just the 30 minutes at the end where everybody's having I can't say it quite yet, but
yeah, I mean it's called shunting, and clearly that is just the only word for it, because to describe it, it's not even that the word shunting is so clearly demonstrative, and I think as a vibe, shunting doesn't quite cover it. It doesn't sound horrifying enough. It sounds very normal. But what happens at the end, to be clear, is extremely not normal.
Not normal at all.
Not even close to normal. It's just like this movie like meanders for so fucking long, but like there's still some fun parts in the meandering. There's a lot of things that they added that I don't know why they did.
Yes. And I have one specific one in mind that I would like to discuss.
The same one.
Okay. For me, it is a scene that I don't know if they added it, like they went back and added it into filming, or if they like went back in the script when they realized they were missing something, but something they added to have like a weird shock moment earlier in the film to kind of let you know the trajectory we were on was this shower scene where
the shower scene.
Yes, Billy walks into the bathroom to get sunscreen while his sister Jenny is in the shower, and he sees like not quite the silhouette of her body, because it's more than that. He can kind of see some vague details
it's like
of her
that
body,
kind of glass that where you can see the shapes.
And what it appears to be is she's got her butt on the front.
No, I thought it was her boobs on the back.
It's really hard to tell.
One or
it
the
could
other.
go either way. Honestly,
really
it could go either way.
You're right. It looks in the moment like the boobs are on her back, but there's another second front butt scene where it looks like a character has just been like twisted at the waist. So it's hard to really get into what's going on, because it is never explained.
It's never explained.
And in the shower scene, her boobs are like 8 times larger than they are in real life.
Enormous.
Yes. They're huge honkers. They're huge ass honkers.
They're
bazoolas. I think for the sake of filming, they definitely put prosthetic boobs on the actress's back. I just don't know how we were supposed to perceive the quote unquote reality. It was a fake butt?
No. It was
I was like, how do you know?
A woman can tell.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they used like a big titted body double. You know what I mean? That would not
those
be
are fake boobies. They were so erect too, they looked hard.
Very prominent.
Very prominent. But yeah, like that part's so fucking funny though, because Bill's like, what the fuck is going on? And he
just wanted some
shower door, which like, don't open the shower door on your sister, but also if you think that boobs are coming out of your sister's back, like that could be a
maybe
concern.
Open the door.
It was definitely I was not getting sexy vibes from Bill doing it. I was getting like
he was
horrified concerned vibes. And then of course she's just like tiny tittied and covering herself up like, Bill, you pervert. Like, honey,
Billy, get out of here. Yeah.
Billy, get out of here.
The thing is, we already had another sexually charged, scientifically confusing scene with Bill and his sister Jenny earlier in the movie. Like the first time they're interacting.
Oh, yeah.
After David Blanchard, ex-boyfriend, has planted the microphone, attacked Jenny, and Bill has thrown him out of the house. Jenny was getting ready for her coming out into society, which is how they say the word every time they say it in this movie. They do like a dramatic pause and then society, which, you know, important. When you say the title of the film, you should really be emphasizing it like that. They were right to do it.
That's the name of their sex orgy cult. So, you know, you got to say it right.
But yeah, so she's like, can you zip me up, Bill? And he goes to like zip her up, but then there's this weird like pulsing bulge on her back that is sweaty. And so there was already like this weird, slightly sexually charged moment between them. And then his finger like strokes the pulsing bulge. And then she's like, what are you doing back there? And he like looks back and it's gone. And he's like, you're just damp. And it's like, what is happening here? So he already had this moment of being like, something strange is happening with my sister's body. So you can kind of empathize with when he sees the front butt or back boobs or whatever it is, that he's like, I must investigate further because now,
back boobs.
Yeah, confirmation something strange is happening here. But that could not possibly prepare you for where things continue to go in this movie.
Oh yeah, I also like choose not to see that as sexual. Like when he strokes the pulsing orb on her back, I think it was more like there's a pulsing orb on her back.
Sure.
And I will say that they did a great job of making me so anxious with how long her dress was unzipped. I was like, does she not know? It was unzipped for like 5 whole minutes. And I was like, oh my God, someone help this woman, please. And then the pulsing orb thing happened. And I was like, I guess she should have just gone without because I didn't like that. But something else that needs to be brought up, because he does play a large role in the latter half of the film, is Bill has in my opinion, sexy best friend named Milo.
I agree.
Who has a adorable little like fro stitch going on. And I want to say it now because it was palpable to me since the very beginning, his introduction. I think they have great chemistry, Bill and Milo. Just saying. I'm just saying there's something there. There's some energy there that I do like. And also like for a movie that doesn't have any confirmed queer characters, like there's a lot of gay shit that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, except for all of them are queer characters.
Yes. Okay. Besides the sex orgy part, but none of them are like, I'm gay and I'm having gay orgy sex later on today. Like none of that. But like Milo, definitely a bi king, if not a queer man himself. Bill is bi too because of his mullet. I don't know. That's why.
Look, you can't be in the 80s and wearing little shorty shorts and having a mullet and not exude a little bit of gay energy. It's just, I mean, I'm sure some people have done it. Because, you know, I've seen my dad's old football team photos where they're all in their little shorty shorts and crop tops. And as far as I know, they're pretty much all straight. And, you know, maybe there are some sneaky ones in there. But in such a large group, you have to imagine of all the men were wearing crop tops and shorty shorts in the 80s. Not all of them have since come out. Maybe, I mean, who knows? Who knows? Can't speak for everybody and their own private journeys. But yeah, I mean, it certainly seems that they're beating the odds with the vibes of that general style. But looking at it in 2020, the numbers kept coming. Looking at it in 2021, it is beautiful. I think we should bring that style back. I think a lot of people are. I would like to see more of it.
I couldn't agree with you.
I want more crop tops and short shorts. Bring it back right now.
Yes.
Truly, I demand it. I might have said on the pod before, I've gotten Adam to wear short shorts. James, my roommate, has already been wearing short shorts, and it's
That's
something.
That's because James is the perfect man.
It's important.
I think he took a page out of James's book, but also, like, finally, he got the short shorts. He got the proper boxer briefs so they don't hang lower than the short shorts. That's how you know they're short enough, because his old underwear was too long for them. That's how you know. So we're doing the Lord's work over here.
Okay, speaking of underwear, does everybody in the 80s wear tighty-whities?
I think so.
Like, was that a thing?
Maybe that's what they had to do for the shorty shorts.
They didn't have boxer briefs back then. I don't know.
That makes sense.
I have truly no idea. But I like.
It's just like every 80s movies I see. Every 80s movie, they're all in tighty whities. The Fly, this movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street, tighty whities.
When were boxers invented?
We're asking the important questions here at Spooky Tuesday. When was this a thing?
TommyJohn.com wants to tell me the answers, and Tommy John does a lot of podcast advertising. So if they'd like me to say their name again, they should cut us a check. But apparently boxer shorts were invented in 1925. But I don't know if they're talking about obviously they're an underwear company, but are they just talking about shorts? And then they were adapted.
I don't know. They didn't come into vogue until sagging came into vogue. When did that happen?
You're right. They really had a moment in the 90s. So maybe they just were not hip in the 80s.
Yeah. In the 80s, it was all about keeping the boys close to home.
Keeping it tight?
Yep. Keeping it tight as hell. But
oh my God, is that why they call them tighty whities? Gotta keep the boys tight.
That's why. I think that's gotta be why. Okay, so there's some other definitely queer-coded people in this movie, too. For example, you can't tell me that Petrie is straight. Like, no one can tell me that Petrie is straight. In case you forgot who Petrie is the guy who is running against Bill for student council president, which is a really annoying subplot of this movie. Because, okay, like, Sydney and Chelsea, you guys can attest to this more. I'd seen this movie twice already, so I knew what was going on. But like the middle of this film, like Sydney told me that she had no fucking clue what was going on.
Not a single clue.
And I feel like most of what's going on is just society engineering events that either make Bill look insane or freak Bill out. Like, for example, early on in the movie, and another scene where there's some gay shit that happens, they go to the beach. Bill goes to the beach with his beautiful girlfriend, Shauna, aka Heidi Kozak, and she actually is a mom of one of the girls we went to school with in high school, Chelsea and I. So that was a really, really weird thing, because I remember when I watched this movie, I did not know that, and then I watched it, and I was like, that woman looks literally exactly like our friend from high school, and lo and behold, but she's an absolute star in this movie.
Oh yeah,
fashion icon, a rightfully angry girlfriend throughout, and she should be, because Bill's fucking around. He truly is. He's not even trying to get them invited to Ferguson's party. Like, what the fuck is he doing? If
I
he's
have
not
lots
doing
of
that?
Shauna discourse to unpack.
Okay, also, I love that this movie, and I wonder if Clarissa Explains It All watch this, because you have Clarissa and Ferguson in this movie.
Are those characters in Clarissa Explains It All?
I mean, Clarissa for sure, but Ferguson I don't recall.
Ferguson was her brother. Are you fucking kidding me, guys?
I don't remember her brother's name. I just remember Clarissa sitting talking to camera, and it's Melissa Joan Hart.
I've never watched it.
I definitely watched it, but I never like revisited it once I became older.
You know I didn't see shit when I was little, okay? So this should come as no surprise. I didn't see Friday Night Lights. I didn't see Clarissa Experience at all. I also can't say the word Clarissa, so that's why I was out. I couldn't do it. Couldn't say the title, so I couldn't watch it. But okay, so this beach scene sets up a lot of fucking shit. So, one, something that I would like to say is, who are those evil little demon children that spray Shauna and Bill with sunscreen? Because they never come back. And I'm like, are those little baby society people? Because they fucking are evil. If a child did that to me on the beach, I would kill them. I would not kill a child, but I would think about it.
Yeah, I mean, they never come back, and it's never resolved. And it turns out one of the kids is like the child of the director, Brian Yuzna. So I don't know if it was just a random cameo. I guess my impression first watching it was that it was maybe like Shauna's little brother or something like that. Just one of those like rambunctious little sibling vibes, perhaps a la Ferguson from Clarissa Explains It All. I assume. But yeah, I think that was more just to have him chase them away so that he could like gaze upon Clarissa again in her metallic blue bikini. You know what I mean? I think it's just a setup for that.
Didn't she look fantastic? Really?
The bikinis in this movie are worth just watching the movie for.
Honestly, yeah.
They're so good. I love the good, like, high cut, like, 80s style bikinis. Like, those are
all the babes in this movie are babes. Like, Mondo babes. 10 out of 10. Great job. But also, I don't care how hot Clarissa is. If she, like, sexually squirted sunscreen on my mouth, I too would be mad. It could have gotten in my eye. How dare you?
The fact that I could see it on Shauna and Billy's lips and imagine sunscreen in their mouth made me very upset.
Very, very.
But also upset. Her standing over him in her sexy bikini squirting onto his face. I'm shaking my head no because I don't like it.
This movie was like so rated R. It was like a low key. It was a softcore porn like a few times.
It was so porny.
It was so porny. I forgot how porny it was. I should have warned you that it would be porny.
It was very porny.
Yeah, so like maybe don't show an impressionable youth. I don't fucking know. Do what you want.
Yeah, the thing is, even just in the moment when Bill is making out with Shauna, his girlfriend, on the beach, he's like rubbing her tummy the whole time, and they're like moaning, and it just you know,
they're in public.
They're literally in public. They're also literally 17. I don't know. It was just one of those things. I mean, Shauna, as it turns out, Shauna was playing along to get what she wanted, which was to leverage Bill into going over to get an invite to Ted Ferguson's party. Mm-hmm. So we love a girl who goes after what she wants and uses whatever tools are in her arsenal to get it. But that was my first like, oh, this is a little very sexy over the top 80s movie. And then things just fully continued on that vibe because there's a scene later with Bill and Clarissa where they are doing sex, probably.
They are doing sex.
It is a lot.
It's a full titty moment.
Yeah, and he like gets his face all up in there.
Expressions are like outrageous.
He was this like movie at her altar, so I was like, all right, as you should, but
this movie is literally like step on the gas. Step on the gas.
And we're saying step on the brake and they won't listen to us.
No. Just when you think this movie has gotten as like insane as it could possibly get, it gets like way more insane like every single time. So right up until the end. But
yeah, when we saw the porny scenes, I was like, this movie is porny. Still not at all prepared for what came later. Not at all prepared.
Yeah. So in this beach scene, after this very sexy encounter with Clarissa, Bill decides to go over to Ferguson, who looks super fucking gay on the beach, just saying. He doesn't look super gay other times, but like he's wearing these sunglasses, and the sunglasses are really good for him because they like make him look way hotter than he actually is. So like it was a really great look for him. Petrie's there, he's gay, so you know, it's like a queer party on the beach. And Bill kind of like tries to get his way into the party and his just completely shut down. It's super embarrassing. But you know, it's not a complete loss, this beach trip, even though Shauna ditched him, because he runs into Blanchard and Blanchard's like, I need to show you this fucking tape that I took. And it's a fucking tape of his sister and his parents talking about her coming out party. And like, I don't know if you wrote down any quotes from this.
Oh, I transcribed that whole bit.
Oh, please, then take it away, because I can't describe it. You just have to hear it for yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, Blanchard had the microphone in Jenny's earring, and he had a voice activated recorder under the seat of the parents' car or something like that. And so they kind of like skip around a couple different moments, but the main expository moment is the mom, Nan, says, I remember my own coming out. I was so excited. And then Jenny says, then you can do it with women as well as men. First of all, gay. Nan says, of course. And then the dad, Jim, says, you know the schedule. First we dine, then copulation. Someone your own age first, then with your mother and me. Then in comes the host. You'll be ready. And then Jenny says, you know, I could hardly keep a straight face when Bill apologized to me about not being able to make it tonight. And Jim says, don't be concerned about your brother, Jen. He's too busy with things in his own world to worry about ours. And then there's another scene where Nan is being like, Nan, the mom, to her daughter Jenny, is being like, your tits look so great. And don't worry, when you get hot and wet, you can see how far you can stretch. And it's so fun. And it's just like,
And then there's a series of moaning where it also sounds like someone is being killed. And
yeah,
yes,
Jenny's like,
they are.
You're so great, Ted. Like, Ted, you're wonderful. And then someone in the background is like, It's just a lot. It's just a lot. And this is the beginning of the movie.
Beginning of the movie. And so, you know, I don't blame Bill for absolutely freaking out and trying to beat the shit out of Blanchard for sending him that tape, because it's a lot of info to take in at one time. Not only do you know about, like, your parents are all talking shit about you. Also, they're having a dinner and copulation party, and they're fucking each other, and she's fucking your fucking worst enemy, Ted Ferguson. So like, can't be worse. And then there's the sound of murder in the background as they're fucking. So like, there's just a lot to take in. Poor guy.
Yeah, and one of those things that you only briefly touched on, because we haven't really explained the larger setup, is that they're shit talking him with the don't be concerned about your brother, he's too busy with things in his own world to worry about ours. The whole like beginning intro of this movie is Bill like goes to his therapist, Dr. Cleveland, and is like, things are different. I'm afraid of my family. They do a little incest and psychosis. No biggie. Haha. I'm just jokes, but I'm not. And he's got this whole thing where he's like, I get scared. He says, are you scared? Bill says, I get scared of what? My parents, my sister, you. He has this whole moment where he like bites into an apple, looks down, it's full of worms. There's just a lot going on where he's got this whole like
quote. He says, I feel like something's going to happen, and if I scratch the surface, there will be something terrible underneath.
Which,
yeah, man.
He's right. Yeah.
Fucking
yeah.
No shit. Fucking yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really strange. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, Dr. Cleveland gaslighting him this whole time. There's a moment where it's like, instead of going to the coming out party, Bill had a basketball game that I guess in hindsight his parents or the society orchestrated for him so that he'd be busy that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like crushes the student body president debate against Martin Petrie. And so he's like riding the wave of victory, and he goes to his.
He crushes it despite the fact that Clarissa's in the front row, literally bearing her poussey to him.
Yes.
To distract him.
Yes.
And he's like mumbling all the words, like, I guess who needs a dress code? I mean.
And then Shauna is right there being like, fuck off, Bill. You're my
I honestly
boyfriend.
see that happening, bruh.
And you're ogling her anyway. But he has these two moments where he feels like things are turning around, maybe, and he like triumphantly goes to his therapist to brag and be like, things are great. There's even a moment where he grabs another apple, bites it, looks down in it, and then like looks up where he's like, yes, no worms.
That acting moment is so incredible. He's like, yeah, like he doesn't say yeah, but his whole body goes, yeah.
Yes. But then immediately Dr. Cleveland is like, how do you feel about your family now in light of all these recent victories? He immediately tries to be like, see, things are going well. There's no reason for you to be paranoid that you should be afraid of your family, that there's something going on that's weird with your family, that you're different than your family. Like he immediately, everything, okay. When Monica was talking about the middle act being just like weird society orchestrated moments, it leads me to question like what was their original plan for Billy, because the spoiler essentially is that he is not part of society. You have to be born into society. He was adopted, and so presumably they're like farmers raising him for slaughter eventually.
100%.
But I don't know if their plan was to do it later, like once he turned 18 maybe, and they just had to like bump up the schedule when he was getting out of hand and they couldn't gaslight him and control him anymore, or like has this all been going pretty much according to plan? Like, is all this stuff in the middle just to try and throw him off and like keep him calm for a little longer? Or are they like fully just mind fucking him so that they can bring him to the shunt?
I think that like they were trying to distract him while they got stuff ready. I don't know if they necessarily had like a certain date that they had to do it, but it kind of makes sense to me that if Jenny's like reached sexual maturity or whatever and they're around the same age, that he would be prime and ready for shunting.
To be a sacrifice of shunting.
Exactly. And so what I think is happening in this whole middle part of the film is that, like, one, okay, they're covering their tracks. That's covering their tracks because that's why they kill Blanchard. Basically, Bill steals the tape from Blanchard and gives it to his therapist, and his therapist is a huge member of society.
He's so good at it. He's so good at the manipulation because he has this
so good.
Yes, like Bill is refusing to give him the tape because he wants to be like, you have to listen to it now while I'm here and I can watch you. But the therapist, who, if you know at all about therapy and like ethical boundaries, is within their rights to be like, you cannot just barge in here and demand something. Like, I will listen to this and talk to you during our session tomorrow. Like, that could be reasonable. It's not. And we know that something funky is going on. And so we know if he leaves the tape, if the tape leaves his sight, something's going to happen to it. It's not going to be the same tape, which is what happens. But his therapist says something like, okay, Bill, it's your choice. It's up to you. Like, whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you want to take the tape home with you and bring it back to me tomorrow, that's okay. Like, there's no reason to be afraid. And he like just psychologically mind tricks Bill into being like, well, now you're making me feel paranoid instead of making me feel like I was onto something. Mm-hmm. And I will leave the tape with you and give you the opportunity to totally fake a new tape. Because in another scene, Jenny has also realized there's something going on with her earring, and she brings it to her dad and the judge, who is this weird leader of the society, maybe.
Yeah. Seems like
and
it.
Yeah, and they immediately somehow are like, oh, this is a microphone. It must be that David Blanchard. He's a tech genius. And so they already know, like, oh, we were being recorded. So they're able to fake the new tape pretty quickly. And then when Dr. Cleveland listens to it and talks to Bill the next day and is like, see, this is normal. And by the way, don't record people. That's illegal. Even if they didn't know for sure that it was Blanchard that had recorded it, Bill immediately confirms it for them by being like, let me just call up Blanchard and see if he has another copy of the original tape so that I can prove to you that I'm not going crazy. Babe, how have you not put together yet that your therapist is in on this?
And he should have known. I mean, you know, you want to trust the people that you pay to listen to your problems. But, you know, he shouldn't have, because at the very beginning, Dr. Cleveland says, you know, you really deserve what's going to happen to you. And Bill's like, what's going to happen? And he says, you're going to make a wonderful contribution to society. So because of that quote, because it's so early on, I feel like this is all actually going to plan. And the reason I said that, what I was going to get at is like, so as we just discussed, Blanchard gets found out that he's been recording everyone, and then society takes care of him, right? They like stage a car crash. His whole van flips over, and then his indistinguishable corpse is dragged away. And then Bill tries to tamper with a crime scene, which is not his best move. But then, like moving forward from that point, I think that they're playing a game with him. At first they were trying to quell his paranoia for a second, and then I think they wanted to amp up his paranoia and make him look insane so they could stage his death and get away with shunting him.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's happening later in the movie, because the next part that happens is they do this whole elaborate stunt with Petrie, where Petrie is like, come to the woods, meet me there. Come to Franklin Canyon, which is a little.
Oh yeah, by the way, the school they go to, Beverly Hills Academy, all very Beverly Hills, LA.
All Beverly Hills, LA. Yeah. So they say go to Franklin Canyon, and I think they do actually like show part of Franklin Canyon. But later on, when Bill is like running through like a bunch of greenery, that is Ferndale. That is the trail of Ferndale at Griffith Park, and so they're wrong. But whatever. But like he goes down into the bushes to try to find Petrie, and there's this like car in the middle of the bushes, which like how? And then he finally opens the door, and Petrie like falls out, and his neck is slashed and blood squirting out. And then like he finds like Ferguson's sweater in the bushes and blah 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 blah, all this stuff. And like the next day he like goes to the second debate for school, and he's like, Petrie's been killed in front of the entire student body. Like, he's been killed. There's a conspiracy. Some shit's going on. Blah, 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 blah. And then 5 seconds later, Petrie walks up and is like, yo, you're crazy. I'm right here. Hello. I'm fine. And so it's all like a long haul to make him look like he's lost his mind. Because then at the end, he gets like 50, like right before the end, he gets like 5150. Essentially, it's what it seems like they were trying to do to him. Like ambulance people come and take him away. And then Milo follows him to try to figure out what the fuck's going on, and they're like, oh, you'll have to find his body in the fucking morgue. So like I think that was them trying to be like, he's dead already, but he's not, and we're gonna see
he just got here. How could he be dead?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is we see him in his hospital room at that moment, and on the door it says that Dr. Cleveland ordered a colorectostomy, high enema, an NPO, and 50 milligrams of thorazine. And I googled all of these things.
Oh no!
A colorectostomy surgically connects part of the colon, which is your large intestine, to the rectum, which is the part of your large intestine that directly connects to your butthole. So I can only assume that that means that they like took out a chunk of large intestine and then like reconnected parts of it, which who knows why, other than there's terrifying butt stuff that happens later in the movie.
Yep.
And when they bring out David Blanchard later in the movie, because it turns out the body that we saw of David Blanchard was fake, was not the real him. Presumably,
also that funeral part was fucking hilarious too, because like I love Milo. I've gone on record saying I love Milo, but at an open casket funeral, no matter how fake you think the body looks, you do not touch it. You do not punch it in the face, essentially. He like punctures a hole into Blanchard's face. Well, it's a fake Blanchard, so like that was smart of him to do, I guess. But like, let's just be reminded to not touch the corpse.
And then they're just like, I guess they had to do a lot of reconstructive surgery. And honestly, for me at the time, I was like, that checks out, and I moved on with my life because I don't know how dead bodies work, and who knows with car crashes.
Don't care to know.
But yeah, I guess I don't know, whatever fake body, maybe it had like porcelain to the touch,
paper
like super
mache
paper
face.
thin skin. Who knows? Anyway, so when we see David Blanchard come back, he's in a hospital gown. Possibly he has had all of these same procedures done. But so there's the colorectostomy, which, as far as I can tell, takes out a chunk of your large intestine and then reconnects the parts.
Great, good.
NPO, NPO means nothing through the mouth. So like all drugs go through like an IV. a high enema is designed to reach most of the colon. Presumably they did a high enema before the colorectostomy.
To get it all out.
Listen, nobody
got
wants
it nice
to eat
and
that.
clean before they severed and reconnected it. And then thorazine is a drug used to treat disorders like schizophrenia, psychotic disorders, manic phase of bipolar disorder, severe personality or severe behavioral disorders, etc. So basically, they rigged his whole butthole and then they tried to calm him down.
But this doesn't actually happen to Bill, right? Because he's only at the hospital for like 5 seconds, it seems, and then he walks out the door or something like that. Does that actually happen to him?
I don't know. I think so, because he's having this whole moment where he's laying there and he's having like the thoughts come over the sound or whatever. So I think there is an implied he is on the drugs.
Well, they drugged him when they took him from the house. They injected him with something right then and there, right?
But why would they be like colorectostomy if they're also saying that he's dead and also they do their weird butthole thing?
I don't know. I thought that he got out before that shit happened to him. Which
maybe I don't know.
Because Milo doesn't seem to be waiting for that long. He's like right outside the door, and then Bill walks out, and he's like, "What?" Like, I don't know. Maybe they didn't lock the door right, or give him enough drugs to keep him knocked out.
I mean, I think that's not the case, because there's clothes there waiting for him to put on, and then his Jeep is there waiting for him. So I think maybe there's just an unclear amount of time passing after Milo went into the hospital, was told that he'd have to go down to the morgue because William Whitney was dead. And then at some point Milo went back outside. I don't know if he saw them bring the Jeep or if the Jeep was just there by the time he went back outside. But clearly the society was like ready for William Whitney to like leave of his own accord, because they set up his car so that he could do so.
Yeah, that's so true. Because also, like, I failed to remember the trivia that said that he was more interested, the director was more interested in surrealism of the story than the logic. So, like, why am I trying to make it make sense? It's not going to fucking make sense.
A little, like, fun fact of my favorite, like, detail of this thing is on the Jeep, his license plate says hoops.
Yes, I love that. There's also David Blanchard's van. I'm pretty sure in the beginning the license plate is ear, which is like,
yes.
What? Why? Because he's always listening. I don't know. But I also transcribed the dialogue between Milo and Billy when Bill just like puts on his clothes and walks out of the hospital, and I cannot quite get a temperature check on what is being communicated to me as the viewer from Bill in that moment, but also possibly it's one of the moments where they were just like, doesn't matter. But what they say is, Bill walks out and he's like, that's right, roll out the red carpet. Bill Whitney never disappoints, huh? And Milo says, they said you were dead. And Bill says, things are just the way they seem, only more so, Milo. Milo says, what happened? What did they do to you? Bill says, nothing. I'm here, aren't I? Huh? I won, Milo. I'm free. They couldn't handle Whitney the Wonder Boy. Milo says,
get him, Whitney.
Get him. Milo says, bullshit. It's a setup. Look, they even brought your Jeep here. Bill says, come on. They just want me to be happy. Milo says, Bill, you're officially dead. Come on. Can't you see they're setting you up for something? And then this is the line that makes me think Bill is not saying what they want him to say because they put him on medication, but Bill has reaffirmed his own beliefs because he says, paranoid? I'm not paranoid. All my fears are real. Come on. So he's saying, like, everything that I thought was happening is happening, and I know this now because they just hospitalized me and did something to my butt and brought my Jeep here, and you know what I mean? Like, is he putting together the pieces at this point, or is he just like, something's going on, I don't know what it is, but clearly I'm right in thinking something. But also then why is he being like, I don't know.
Drugs, man.
I don't
Drugs.
know. Yeah, also
Drugs,
possibly
man.
he's just on drugs. But he does go home in that scene and he gets the knife and he's like ready to stab his parents. So
yeah, he goes home. I think like he wakes up and he's fine enough and he's like, okay, this shit is actually happening. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to fucking murk those bitches. I think that's his
but they
vibe.
get him first.
Wait.
Like a stray dog collar thing.
What I need to mention before you get there is there's a whole, he goes to Clarissa's house first, I think, right? Or he runs into Clarissa or something, right? And she says, "Don't go home, Billy." And he says, "Don't go home? Are you kidding? They want me home. It's time to party hardy." Which, beautiful.
But yeah, I mean, Clarissa's whole character just like doesn't fucking make sense to me because first she's just like using her poussée power all the time, which like good for you, girl. But then like she falls in love with Bill, I guess.
And why?
I mean, he's hot. He's super hot. And
yeah, I mean,
not like the other boys.
She was like, oh,
she was trying to eat him
so
though.
Good that she literally turned around, like she literally spun her body all around and put her arm.
She front butted him
twice. Yeah, in a way,
but
she front butted him.
You could like hear the sounds of the shunt beginning. Like I think she was just trying to eat him initially, and then he like freaks out in that moment. And then they start making out on the couch again later. And then Mrs. Caroline comes in. And by the way, that's a whole thing that I need to discuss because there's a moment where Shauna has like followed Shauna and her friend. Her friend is maybe part of society. I don't know. But her friend was at Ted Ferguson's party, saw Billy leave with Clarissa. The friend gets Shauna. They drive to Clarissa's house to spy and be like, that's Bill's van in front of the house. And Shauna's like, I can't believe it. He's cheating on me, essentially. But then they're like, who's that? Someone else is here. We got to get out of here. Cut to Mrs. Carlin coming in the house. And then she coughs up a little blonde hair ball, and she has a chunk of blonde hair in her hand. I thought that she ate Shauna.
Oh my god!
I mean, we do never see Shauna again.
No, we do see Shauna again.
We see Shauna the next morning, and she looks hot as fuck in
yes,
that
she does.
green acid wash dress and white cowboy boots. Oh my god! I will be recreating this look.
Frankly, they shouldn't have brought Shauna back because Shauna getting eaten is way more interesting than Shauna just dumping him and then not being part of the movie anymore.
Yeah, but also just like what
one
the fuck?
Thing.
Oh yeah, you go. Sorry.
Just a quote from like that whole thing, like after Clarissa and Billy fuck, she makes them tea, and she says, "Cream, sugar, or do you want me to pee in it?"
She freaky, baby.
What?
I just
You want a little piss with that?
I don't know. God, the vibes are so strange here. She's like, do you want... She says weird shit literally all of the time.
All the time!
And she's always like, let me just shine my pussy on you from the audience, and let me just offer to pee in your tea, and let me just front butt you for
She's one of
kicks? I don't know.
She's one of those girls who's like super, super, super hot, like so hot. And then you're like, oh my God, you're actually the strangest person on earth. And people don't notice at first because they're blinded by your beauty. That shit happens a lot. And I like that for her. It gives her more depth. She's not just hot. She's also really weird. And that's great. But also, like, does she get it from her mom? Because what's going on with Miss Carolyn, or however you say her name? Because, like, I was like, why did they include this in the film? Like, her character's existence is, like, so baffling to me. But then, of course, they bring her back in the final act and make her actually a very important part. But, like, how I don't think she's part of society per se, because, like, she's not invited to that party. She's not at the party at the end. What do you think?
We haven't really talked about any of the shunting scene specifically yet, but there's a quote they say during the shunting scene, when Bill shows up and they're like explaining it to him basically, and I think it's the judge that says, it's either the judge or Dr. Cleveland that says, you almost understand, don't you, Bill? You're a different race from us, a different species, a different class. You're not one of us. You have to be born in society. And they say like, oh, we're descended from Julius Caesar and Genghis Khan.
Oh, this is Cleveland.
Yeah, so they do this whole thing where they're like, we're the ruling class, essentially. We've been here as long as you have, but we're better than you. But we're not aliens. We're just like fancy humans plus. Humans, not even 2.0, because again, they've coexisted since the beginning. Where one of the taglines is always like, the rich have always fed off the poor. Now they do it literally, or something like that. But so
I can't believe that was the fucking tagline for this movie. Like, I just found that out right as we started recording too.
It's the poster says, the rich have always fed on the poor. This time it's for real. And there's a moment when they're at Ted Ferguson's party where Milo shows up, and you can't see it on his shirt. You can't like read it clearly because he's wearing a jacket, but IMDb says it's an Eat the Rich shirt that belonged to director Brian Yuzna in college. So I think this film is like pretty clearly a metaphor for like classism, and there's some weird race moments. I mean, I don't think, maybe I'm not remembering, but I don't think there's a single black person in this movie, and I don't know if that's just because a lot of the time there are not black people in movies, or if that was a specific choice. There is a line at the shunting where Bill is basically being like, don't eat me, and I think the judge jokes that it's a slave revolt. There's a moment where they call
fun joke.
Yeah, there's a moment where they call Blanchard Bagel Breath Blanchard that I was like, that feels anti-Semitic. So there's like this, obviously this like deconstruction of class and wealth and power. And I wonder if Miss Carlin is a metaphor that they didn't fully go into about how even when there are people within society who don't fit the mold of society, they get like, I was going to say shunted off to the side, but the word shunt here has a very different context.
Shunted.
They don't get shunted. Yeah, they just like are hidden from polite society, I guess, because if you have to be born into society and society people only mate with other society people, that means Clarissa's parents were both society. And Clarissa's mom had Clarissa somehow. But yeah, they don't say what her deal is, but I don't think speaks at all in the movie.
Does some grunting.
She does some grunting.
And she likes hair.
She has a fascination for or a hunger for hair of some kind, which is also weird because in the shunting scene, and if you haven't picked up yet, and we haven't clearly said, shunting is some weird combination of like sexy eating. I don't know. But consuming, but also becoming what, I don't know. You have to find out for yourself.
Absorbed into the society, but like as food, you don't get to like you don't become like
one.
A fusion.
Yeah,
they become one for like a little while, and then all the society people walk away, and you're gone, honey. It's over.
But there's a moment where after they've shunted Blanchard, the judge or someone is like coughing up little hair bits. So the fact that Mrs. Carlin eats hair is not unique to her or weird necessarily. It could just be her like shunting / feeding, but also it's to a weird degree because there's this moment where she just like finds herself in the backseat of Milo's car and is like pulling at his hair, and he turns around. He knows who she is immediately somehow, never explained because nobody else knows who she is.
No, okay,
yeah,
he's on the go.
But he's like, Miss Carlin, you can stay with me, but don't touch my hair. But then he tries to use her to get into the party because she's society, but also she's not allowed into the party. So there's something weird going on here where she's part of society, but she's not like welcome within society.
Yeah.
And that could be not even a metaphor, I guess, because it's pretty blatant, but that could be like a commentary on not just race, but treatment of people with disabilities.
Yeah, totally.
But they just don't fully confront it.
No. There wasn't time.
Other than Clarissa being like so mean to her mom, which is sad. And like lets her full tit flop out in front of her mom. But then at the end, her mom saves her. So her mom is good and Clarissa maybe sex, but also maybe has a turning point. And again, why does she like Bill other than Bill is hot? But the whole Martin Petrie
really
death
good at
setup
basketball,
scene,
okay?
yeah, that must be it.
That's it. It's a big
But the
plus.
whole Martin Petrie death setup scene, after he goes to her and the police are like, stop wasting our time, rich kid. Because there's this one police officer. Let me find the quote actually. So the police officer on the scene says something to him like, is it really that boring being rich? I guess you're just naturally fucked up, huh? But and by the way, that police officer, as it turned out, I don't know if he's part of society and he just has like a power fantasy and that's why he decides to be a police officer. I don't know if he's part of society, but they're like, you have to be a police officer. You can't just be wealthy and rich like the rest of us. I don't know.
On the inside.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to have people in the system because that's how you pull strings behind the scenes and make
100%.
fake bodies and make people disappear. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to fake somebody's death if you don't have people working the system? But that really upsets Billy, and he like doesn't want to go home. And Clarissa spends the night with him in his car, where he sleeps with his head in her lap all night long. And I think like that's got to be, yeah, that's got to be the turning point for her. I just don't see why, other than the plot demanded it.
Well, maybe it's because like Petrie, who he doesn't like and sucks. Well, okay, he doesn't suck. I like Petrie, even though he does suck, but I like him. But like he's like trying to do what's just, even though these people have been fucking with him heavy like the entire movie. He's like, I'm going to find him and find his killer, blah blah blah. And she's like, oh, he's such a good person. And like, it's fine to have normal sex without the weird slurping that I usually do. I could live this way, that's the point.
I don't need to slurp.
I don't need to always slurp.
I don't know. I'm kind of into slurping.
I'm into a little slurping, but
we
need
to
get
into I hate it here.
The final act here, because like it's the whole
There's so
last
much to unpack.
quarter of the whole fucking movie. It's a very long experience.
So long. It's so much.
So long.
But it was the right length for me personally. So young Bill returns to his homestead and all the lights are off and he hears people whispering, and essentially it's like a surprise party for Bill where they're gonna kill him at the end. It's like lights off, everyone's like, where is he, you can hear them saying that, and then surprise, we got you, Bill, with the fucking dog snatcher lasso thing. I wish it'd been a real lasso. That would have made it a lot better instead of just the long stick with the sad hoop on the end.
But the stick means you can keep your distance, you know what I mean? And he's got a knife, so
I just like lassos. That's This is like because I'm in my eternal cowgirl phase. So
sure,
you know this. You're in it too. But poor guy, very uncomfortable situation. He gets thrust to the floor, and everyone just makes fun of him because he's adopted, which is terrible. And then you get that great quote that Chelsea just read, where Cleveland explains to him, his therapist explains to him that it's just showbiz, baby.
Which I would love to discuss further, because how absolutely unbelievably strange to be like, there's no business like show business. Like, why is he saying that? They're like this weird elaborate improv troupe that they're putting on this like play for themselves the whole time. He says something to them.
How the rich own Hollywood.
Oh my God. But he says something to the parents like, well done indeed, effective, efficient, and to say the very least, entertaining. So they do, this is like foreplay for them, this like elaborate, almost 18-year setup where they're gaslighting this kid and like making him go crazy.
We think our pre-chat foreplay before the podcast is long. This is 18 years of foreplay. Just alarming. And pretty quickly after explaining, like, how their class is fucks and
they're like, oh, we've got an internship for Ted Ferguson. Let's just do a little
Washington.
Yes. They're just like, let us blatantly show some nepotism here in general and how this works within these circles. Let's just be really heavy-handed with this metaphor for a second.
Super heavy-handed. And that also was a metaphor because they said Washington, that's like how the rich own the government as well. That's what that was too. So at this point, we got nepotism, we got the rich owning the government, we got the rich owning Hollywood. All of the things, we're hitting all of our bases here. It's wonderful. But then Waltz is in the judge himself, because this is the judge's party after all. And the judge is the king of the society, I guess. And let me say that this actor does a fantastic job of being a freaky bitch. Like, honestly,
just oof.
Horrifying. And I'm sure he gives a big long speech, but I've blocked out most of it. Oh, Chelsea is making a scary face.
I just am revisiting my notes for that whole scene, and it is so I cannot put words to how upsetting it is to watch, because they like let the shunt begin, all the lights go red, everybody is like getting naked and covered in what must be lube or something. It's like so gooey.
I think they secreted it, like,
right, but in reality, the reality of filming that scene where they're just actors getting naked and getting lube squirted all over them as they ride against each other under the red lights.
Let's lean into the surrealism here. They are excreting this lubricant, which, like, look at these society people. They are built to fuck, literally. They can create lube out of their own body. Like, very impressive, honestly. These are a lot of superpowers that they have here.
There's just this moment where they descend on Blanchard, where at first you're like, are they fucking him or are they eating him? It's a little bit of both. And then you see that their mouths have like extended to become part of his body. And there's this,
the makeup for that is so good.
Yes, there's this one really, really horrifying moment that particularly upsets me, where somebody like grabs his butt cheek and then their fingers like sink into his butt cheek. And it just, I hated it.
I think that their secretions kind of like break down his body a little bit, where he's like still alive, because after they've all been like sucking on him for a while with their mouths like literally a part of his body now, he's kind of like a oogie boogie wiggly worm. He's got Blanchard's head and he's still alive, but like his arms are all weird and his legs are all weird and his body's all weird because he's being pulled in all these different directions. And then he's primed and ready for the shunting. And the shunting, you know, it's an elaborate thing, but the main thing of the shunting is you take your big hand, you take your hand as the judge, you put it into like kind of like you're making like a dog face kind of thing, like your fingers are together, all your fingers are together to a point, that sort of thing. And then you take it and then you shunt him up his butt all the way, and you come out his mouth. And that's the shunting.
Okay. But I will say though, if you go to any sex shop, they do have like dildos that are in that hand
I've seen those
shape. So you can shunt at home in the comfort of your own home.
It's basically a full body fisting is what's happening.
But the thing is that he also, right before he shoves his hand in there, the judge is like, it's time to get to the bottom of this. And then he does it. And it just, It's so, I am upset.
Another part of this movie that this scene in particular that is absolutely incredible, like chef's kiss, best thing ever. Like right before he sticks his entire arm into the asshole and abdomen of poor Blanchard, he points out Blanchard's cute little birthmark that he has on his cheek,
his beauty mark.
Little beauty mark. He's like, wow, how amazing. And after the shunting has ended and
they
the
like
judge
take
emerges
their corporeal forms again.
Yeah, as they all like shoomp 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 back into waspy white people. The judge comes out and he has Blanchard's mole on his face, like as part of his face.
He's like, oh, I got the beauty mark.
He's like, oh, how cute am I?
Okay, but one part of the shunting scene that we need to talk about is not the actual shunting, but Clarissa, who has fallen in love with Billy by that point, is like, run, Billy, I love you. Like, she tries to help him escape just by like taking the dog catcher thing off him. That's really all she does. But he's trying to get away. He goes upstairs because they're at his house. And then in his parents' bedroom, what he discovers is his mom on the bed, but instead of the bottom half of her body, she has weird man hands. And then she like stands up on the weird man hands, and then the sister Jenny's face comes out from like between the hands, which would be the mom's legs, and then the sister's face from that part of the body says something like, if you have any edible fantasies, now is the time to indulge them. And then he looks over, and his dad, who he okay, first of all, there's a really funny line earlier in the movie that we didn't mention, where Bill has come home and he's upset with his parents, and they're like, don't be so paranoid or whatever, because
he comes into the bedroom and sees everyone, mom, dad, and Jenny, and they're hanging out on the bed, and they're all in fucking lingerie, and the dad is giving Jenny a massage. It's like a very sexually charged room, and so Bill walks in and he's like, what the fuck? And then they get into a huge fight.
But he says, fuck you, butthole. Or butthead, or something like that.
Sorry, I thought that Chelsea was going to read the quote.
Is a through line for prom night, because she also calls her brother a butthead.
Yeah, but that whole quote is so fucking funny. He's like, fuck you, butthead. And then the mom's like, don't say fuck to your father, or don't say the F word to your father. And he was like, what would you prefer, copulation?
But yeah, so there's that interaction earlier in the movie, the fuck you, butthead, which, first of all, it's just hilarious to me that you would be like, fuck you, and then you would like kind of tamp it down with butthead, which is like so tame in response. But guess what? When it comes back, when it circles back around, not at all tame, because now the dad is a literal butthead, where he's just a butt and legs, and the head is on the butt. And it is just truly...
His head is exactly where the butthole would be.
Yes.
Clear.
Yes.
It's just terrifying, truly terrifying. And things...
Beautiful work of makeup, though. Honestly, a stunning, like, who is the fucked motherfucker who came up with this? I want to shake
His name is like Screaming Mad George or something like that. Like, yes, I didn't write it down from the credits, but let me make sure that's right so that we're crediting the right person. But truly,
Mad George.
Truly insane.
He was before his time. So 3 years before his time, because they shelved this for 3 years.
Yeah, Screaming Mad George did all of the makeup work for this movie, and frankly, big kudos to him. I'm terrified of him. I don't wanna have any further insight into his brain. I don't need it, you know? But yeah, he's worked on a bunch of stuff. Like he worked on Predator. He worked on The Abyss and stuff like that. He worked on Big Trouble in Little China. So he's got quite the resume. He worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, as a through line to our A Nightmare on Elm Street episode a few episodes ago. But yeah, there's just...
It's clear, though, that this is his magnum opus.
Oh my God.
You know?
Well, because they really gave the space for the prosthetics to breathe here. Because what happens after Bill runs out of his bedroom is he ends up in like a one-on-one fight with Theodore S. Ferguson, who sent a telegram earlier to invite Bill to the party, which was signed like, cordially, Theodore S. Ferguson, which is not relevant, but I didn't want us to not mention it because I love that detail. But so they end up in like this one-on-one fight, and you're like, how is he gonna take this society person when they can just gobble him up, basically? And what he does...
He's been absolutely pwned, too, by Ferguson for the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Destroyed.
But what he does is Ted Ferguson's body has become slightly malleable as is part of the shunting process, I guess. So he like grabs one arm and twists it around, and then Bill takes his hand in proper shunting form, and he shoves it up Ted's butt, and then it doesn't come out his mouth, not entirely. He also pokes out Ted's eyes, uses the eye holes and his mouth to firmly grab his whole face, and then turns him inside out.
Yes. Yes,
He turns him inside out, and then everyone is like, "Whoa, we can be turned inside out."
Him.
That's
brought
fucked.
the shunt back, baby.
Yes.
Inside of him, instead of like normal guts, is like a lot of worms.
It's the same worms from the apple.
Dude, it's like a bunch of worms. Also, like there's another whole like little side part of this thing where like earlier in the movie, the mom and the dad are with the gardener and they're just fawning over these slugs, and they're like, "These are beautiful slugs. It's incredible."
The
And
best
then
crop we've ever had.
the best crop we've ever had. And then at the party, I'm pretty sure the appetizers are fucking slugs. I think they're eating those slugs because they're out on plates throughout the party. So interesting. I guess he had a few too many slugs, and now everyone knows. Embarrassing for Ferguson.
Honestly, humiliating. And they're all like, "Don't touch him until he's congealed." Don't know what that means.
Yeah, like, are they gonna be able to save him? Lord fucking knows, but I don't think so. Because
no, I
then
think
the
it's
judge
over
is
for him.
like- yeah, the judge is like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna need someone else for the Washington internship."
Which is
Like, that's their
the
only
last
response.
line of the movie. The last Milo has escaped. Like, first of all, just a quick shout out to Miss Carlin, who like tackled Ted Ferguson when he was like wailing on Clarissa.
Yes.
And that's what
hair to steal.
yeah, that's kind of what enabled I don't know. There's like this. Also, I just want a quick shout out. As soon as Ted started to fight him, he was doing this shunting thing where he attacked him, but it just looks like they're kissing. It really just looks like they're kissing.
Yes.
And then he like shoves
Yes.
Ted away, and his mouth is like elongated, and the tongue is still going like. But
Okay.
but
There's also another
basically,
part where he's trapped, like earlier in the film, where Bill is trapped on the ground with the dog collar thing, and Ted's like, "We're gonna get you, bitch," something like that. And then to like prove his point, he opens his mouth and a super
He-
long tongue comes out,
Just
and he
flops
lips
out.
unfurls his tongue.
I was like, "That's gay too." So,
But
like, you just want to taste, honey.
yeah, once he turns him inside out, everybody else is like hands off. And Milo, who is there the whole time, Milo and Bill are able to escape with Clarissa, and God knows what's going to happen to her as a society member now, presumably out on her own.
Out on the lam.
But they just end that last line in the movie is the judge being like, "Well, Dr. Cleveland, it looks as though I may have an opening in Washington next summer. Know what I mean?" And then they just roll the credits.
And that's it. And that's society.
It's just so unbelievable.
Isn't it? Isn't it just? Isn't it just? I mean, you guys knew how unhinged this was going to be going into it, at least because I said this is maybe the most unhinged film I've ever seen in my entire life. And watching it
But
again,
we
this
weren't
is
ready for
certainly-
it.
No. This is just to say, like, when I watched it for the first time, I had no idea what it would be at all. Like, no idea that it would even be unhinged, would even be anything. Like, honestly, I could not believe my fucking eyes. And I still can't. Even watching this the second time, and I knew everything was coming. I knew the butthole stuff was gonna happen. I knew about the suction mouth. And
Yeah, I mean,
you're still not prepared.
I think if you haven't watched this movie and you've listened to this whole episode, it still could not possibly prepare you for what you're going to see if you decide to tune in later. The only thing I can say to sort of help paint the picture a little bit better is a piece of IMDb trivia about Blanchard's body once the shunting has begun, and it's like all stretched out, and there's like eyeballs rolling around far away from where his face still clearly is because the hand is coming out of it. But per IMDb, a dozen crew members worked that like large puppet of his contorted, stretched out body. It took a dozen crew members to operate that puppet. So let that just inform how big, how stretched out this all must have been.
And how long it goes on.
Like Nan said in the beginning on the recording, once you get hot and wet, it's fun to see how much you can stretch.
It's very true. And like the thing about this movie that I also didn't remember is that the opening credits like literally shows you scenes from the shunting, but it's all like super like red. There's like a red tinge over it and it's a little blurry or whatever. And like so you're literally seeing stuff that you're going to see in the final act, but you're still not prepared. Like even seeing it doesn't prepare you for seeing it. Like it is beyond comprehension or description. So you have to just watch it for yourself. But that brings us to our regular segments. And we ask the age-old question, could it have been gayer? And I say only just barely could it have been gayer. Because this is like we should have done this during Pride Month.
Pretty
This
gay.
is pretty fucking gay. Like everybody is at least open to fucking anyone. So that's pretty good. I mean, besides Bill. But I still like to believe that Bill and Milo have something going on. And I think my point is even strengthened there because something we haven't talked about is that throughout the movie Bill is like being like bullied by someone like leaving different like dolls in his car with like fucked up shit going on with them, like a nail in the head or something else. And then at one point after he fucks Clarissa, there's a sex doll that says Clarissa on it in his car, like a blow up sex doll that has the Ken doll shoved up its pussy.
It's in the mouth.
Very graphic.
It's in the
I thought
mouth.
it was in the pussy.
No.
Oh my bad. I'm so
Which
sorry.
is actually more
I
on
do
point
apologize.
because it's
Yeah.
being eaten. You
Oh,
know, Milo
but
couldn't
we-
have known, but I knew.
But yeah. But we find out Milo fesses up that it was him the whole time. And let me just tell you, that's gay. He was jealous.
Yeah.
He was jealous that Bill was with Shauna and hanging out with Shauna. He at one point even says, "You're just my best friend when it's convenient to you." And I'm just like, oh, if this isn't a unrequited love situation, I've never seen one before. Like that's what this is.
I would, however, like to also provide Shauna is gay evidence.
Ooh, please.
Which to me is okay. So Bill is a bad best friend to Milo. He's also a bad boyfriend to Shauna, frankly. He either is only dating her for this status symbol of dating a super hot cheerleader, or he's only dating her because he wants to be hooking up or something. You know what I mean? Clearly he's not invested in who she is as a person. And also the whole time that we see him with her in the movie, he's ogling Clarissa. So he's just like not that there for it. But also, when we see her with him, I don't know that she's invested that much in him specifically either. I think he's also a status symbol to her because when they're making out on the beach, he goes to touch her boob and she's like, no. And she like relocates his hand and then immediately is like, let me leverage this moment to get that sweet, sweet party invite. Frankly, to me, it's very gay that she's just using him. It feels very like but I'm a cheerleader-esque almost, where she's just dating the person that she thinks she's supposed to date to have access to the things that she thinks she's supposed to have access to in high school. I fully believe that Shauna is going to have her coming out.
And I can't wait to see that follow-up film. It's just like Shauna's day out and has nothing to do with shunting at all.
Yes.
Aren't we so happy for Shauna that she's never exposed to the horrors of the latter half of this film? Yes, she does disappear, never to be seen again, but like thank God for her, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's fully bullshit that she just disappears from the narrative, but also I'm happy Shauna survives and does not have to deal with any of society.
Seriously.
Other than her best friend is maybe in society, and I would love to know more about that and have their own Shauna and Friend adventure movie.
They show you all the people at the end.
But she's at Ted Ferguson's party, so how did she get invited if it's a society party?
It's not a society party. The whole school was invited to the party.
But are they? Because Shauna wasn't.
No, but okay, get this. Like, I think all the society members were the ones in that tent at the party. Like, the party was a lot of people. Like, Milo was at the party. He's not society. But
I felt like Milo crashed the party. Like, Milo was following Billy.
Well, I think there were, like, a ton of people there, and they show, like, all of the students that you would remember, like, at the society party with Bill's shunting and Blanchard.
Okay.
Blanchard shunting.
Interesting.
So I don't think all of them are. I think that like they have like a sub clique of shunters in the tent.
Then Shauna's best friend is a bad best friend. She should have taken Shauna to the party.
I know.
That said, I do want to give a shout out to Society because I think it's great that you can be in Society and you can still be a nerd like Martin Petrie, and you can still be alternative like that girl who had the giant goth hair.
Yeah.
And so obviously we just discussed how Society is essentially like a weird white supremacist cult, but also you can be emo, and that's fun.
That is fun.
See, they're accepting of all rich people.
Okay, but where could our king Matthew Lillard fit into this? I think we have some options.
I don't want him to have to be in this movie. But he would be great. He would be great. Obviously, he's got the unhinged energy. He could bring it.
Okay, I would like to see him as either Ferguson
Ooh.
or Milo.
Milo is my pick. I would love to see him in a hero's role. I would love to see him being like a slightly gay, caring best friend. I think he would absolutely thrive and kill in that role. And also, Milo is already kind of like a lanky weirdo a little bit. And I think that Maddie Lily would kill it. And I would also like to see Maddie Lily in an Eat the Rich t-shirt.
Yes.
Very sexy.
I think he would look fab in that shirt.
I wish there was a better shot of the Eat the Rich shirt
in the
film itself, because that's fucking iconic. That's genius. What a beautiful Easter egg. I don't know if that counts as an Easter egg, but
it does now, baby.
It is now. It said it on the internet, so it's true. But okay, so this one is going to be contentious. There's so many people to discuss, but who's the dumb bitch here, really, when you think about it? Like, who could it be? All of Society, they're all fucking dumb bitches. That's for sure. Even though they're smart
who's the star
keeping things
of the dumb bitches?
Secret, you know. I feel like it's Bill somehow, but he's just kind of dumb. It's not his fault.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Bill because he's a bad boyfriend and best friend, and it feels like if he were better at those two things, he would have had a much better support system of people to go along with him and reaffirm his beliefs and help him investigate. But also, he's been gaslit for 18 years, so it's a little hard to say that he should have. Yeah, it's a little hard to say he should have had a better understanding of what was going on around him, because there are literally a whole society of people in place to make sure that he doesn't.
Yeah. At every turn, he is confronted by someone from Society trying to keep him in line until they're like, let him go crazy so it'll make more sense when he dies unexpectedly. Like, I can't, like, I feel bad making him the dumb bitch, because even though he does some dumb bitch things, like, it's not his fault because he's had such a terrible experience. But, I mean, like, he does get some good things out of living with Beverly Hills family. Like, that car, his car is sexy as fuck.
His Hoops car, his Hoops Jeep.
His Hoops Jeep is sexy. It's nice. Very nice. So at least he had that.
And there's that whole moment, which is interesting when you find out that the cop is part of Society. That quote that I read that's like, is it so hard to be like a boring rich kid or whatever? You must just be genuinely fucked up. That is so interesting to me, because they're saying like, look, you're not Society, but you've lived with all of the perks and benefits of Society up until this point because you were living with this Society family. Like, you have this car, you're the star of the basketball team, you're running for student body president, you're the star of the debate team as well. Like, and you're still out here chasing conspiracies. Like, why can't you just be content with being spoiled? Although obviously we know that that's not right or accurate, because again, there's a whole society of people gaslighting him this whole time.
Well, I think the cop was just doing that to like add to his like guilt and like turmoil that he was experiencing. It's all part of the master manipulation plan. He's just like, I'm going to make you feel shitty for being rich, but even though low-key I am too, and I just do this because I like to kill people in my free time.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, but everybody in Society is like not the dumb bitch because they're such evil masterminds. You know what I mean?
Good. Clarissa's the dumb bitch.
She kind of is.
Yeah.
She kind of is.
She
because
kind of
not
is.
only is she like, I know I'm part of society, and so I know that Bill is being raised for the slaughter, but let me shunt him on my own earlier. Like, first of all, greedy, share with society, which in its own way is kind of like a socialist commune. Fascinating, but whatever. So she's trying to get him early, and then she falls in love with him, and then she's like, let me just leave society, and also let me be mean to my mom this whole time and be like, she does things I don't like, and that's why I'm mean to her. And it's like, okay, Clarissa, that's weird.
You just don't like her because she's eccentric.
You just don't like her because she has an obsession with hair.
And she uses too much rouge. And you know what? If you just help her with that problem would be solved.
I love her drag queen aesthetic, personally. I think she looks great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's gotta either be Clarissa or like Shauna's friend who didn't bring her to the party. And Shauna's friend who didn't bring her to the party is like so unimportant to the plot that it's hard to give it to her. It's just also hard to give it to anybody else.
Yeah, because everybody's like doing either the best they can, Bill, in a shitty situation, or they're literal evil geniuses, so we cannot call them a dumb bitch because they've been keeping a whole weird body fusion sex orgy cult under wraps for fucking millennia.
They've been doing improv for 18 years.
They've been doing improv theater for 18 years. Yeah, and also, I mean, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, but I just would like to comment on Therapist Cleveland, that part when he personally fights Bill, and he's got the little, like, smiley mouth.
Yes, scary.
His face is really long and smiley. I
and
like
then
that
he turns his whole head into a hand, and he's like, need a hand?
He turned
his
face into the shunt hand.
So
Unnecessary,
scary.
but a beautiful, great job, Mad George. Screaming Mad George. Incredible work. Yeah,
Terrifying.
Okay, so let's just give it to Clarissa because
it's gotta be her.
It's gotta be her.
Nobody else
your mind.
fits the bill, if you will.
Stop flip-flopping. But great 80s dress at the end there. 10 out of 10. All right, so we're now on to our final, and I can't wait to see what you guys rate this movie because I don't even fucking know what I'm going to do. But what are our knives out of 5s for this special piece
Chelsea, give us some
cinema?
backstory.
Yeah, here's the context, which is really interesting, especially in light of how poorly rated Prom Night was by IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes last episode. The rating for Society on IMDb is that it has a 6.5 out of 10, and critics gave it a 62%, which is fresh. But audiences in comparison gave it a 51%, which is rotten. But I did see one particular review that I just want to give a quick shout out to. It is a rotten review. They did score the movie a D, but I think it's funny. It says, Society is a poorly written but ultra-gory horror story made in 1989. And I just love that they absolutely ripped it out of the bat because it is a poorly written but ultra-gory horror story. But do we want more from it? You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's all that we're asking it to be.
No, yeah. I mean, this movie, like, I wouldn't change a damn thing about it. I wouldn't. There's not one thing that I would change. Like, I like that it meanders through the whole middle part where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Why? Because I think that makes the end pack all the more of a punch because, like, it's kind of, like, dull a little bit for a while. And you're like, okay, what's going to happen? And then you're like, oh, God, why won't it end? Literally 30 minutes of nonstop body horror. Oh, baby. So that's it. I guess I'm gonna just go first because I've already said my whole spiel. Fuck. I usually base mine off of what you guys say. This is so hard to go first. I hate it. I'm gonna give it.
I'll go first.
Okay, you go first. Great. Thank you.
Okay. So, as an avid horror fan, I am ashamed to have never seen this movie before. And I love body horror and cheesy 80s horror. I'm just like, oh, this movie was just like so good. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh.
Yes. Okay, cool. I was also going to give it around there too, so that makes me feel a lot better. Okay, I'll just do mine now because then Chelsea, you can go last because I've already said all my spiel. Yeah, I feel like this movie, like I said earlier, is just like it's so unique. There's nothing else like this movie. I'm sure there's some things that are a little bit like it. Like I said last week, it's got the Fly energy, but it's completely different than the Fly. Like I also guffawed in the same way that I guffawed during the Fly. But like this movie like is something that like Satan didn't even have this nightmare. Like this it's like beyond. It's from another planet. And I love it and I will watch it again. I'll wait 5 years just so I can have a little bit of a breathing space. I need that time to review and regroup. But I want to give this like even higher than Sydney. I'll give this like a 4.22222 repeating just for the novelty of it all. And all of those points go straight to Screaming Mad George.
Yeah, I mean, I think was the writing good? No. Was the plot coherent? Not really.
It's surrealist.
But would I ask it to be anything other than it was? You're right. I wouldn't. This is like, would I change anything? The only thing I would possibly change is that Shauna doesn't come back for the blow up doll scene. Other than she looks so great there. So much love to Heidi. She is an icon, and I love that scene. But also, when I thought Shauna got eaten, to me, if she's not going to be part of the larger movie and plot, that is a much more interesting ending.
Definitely.
And I think I would have loved to commit to that. That aside, no critiques other than I'm horrified. You know what I mean? And would I say that it is like a prestige film on par with some of the other movies that we've rated this high? Probably not. But also, I could not possibly give it a low score because it is just, when someone is just like, they're just who they are, and that's amazing. This film is not trying to be anything other than what it is, and I love that for it. And I'm also gonna give it 4 knives out of 5s.
Let it flag fly. God, I'm so glad that we all were in agreement on this one. Like rewatching it, I was like, it's so fucked. Like, are they gonna be mad at me? But I'm glad that it's like the right type of fuck for our freakiness. It really works out. So, okay, Chelsea, you should introduce next week's movie.
Yes. So you guys know we just did a themed month in April. This isn't a themed month per se, but we've got June coming up. June is Pride Month. And so for the entirety of June, we're going to pick horror movies that we're not making gay, but are actually gay to some degree. Or actually
gay.
Yeah, canonically queer in some way.
Canonically queer.
Canonically
that
queer.
Nice.
We love that. You know what I mean? That's what we want to see more of. But we're starting with the movie that probably was the queer horror entry point for a lot of people roughly our age. And that is Jennifer's Body. It is just absolutely iconic. It's amazing. Nothing will ever compare. It is flawless. It was recently referenced in Olivia Rodrigo's new music video, Good For You, which please, I love her. She's my child. Please support her. But it is just endlessly iconic. And it is also gay, and also it is hot as hell, and also it is one of the movies that exists within the genre that people like to say, good for her. And so I'm so excited to get into it.
It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful month, and this is the only way we could possibly kick it off, so I'm really excited. But yeah, that wraps us up for society. So, maybe go say a prayer after having experience that. But if you liked what you heard, why not rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts? We would love to hear from you. Also, would you like to follow us on social media? I think you should. Chelsea just posted a really fucking cute TikTok just the other day. You could see that with your own eyes if you followed us on Instagram at spooky_Tuesday.
Bye, Spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, And our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at _moon_omg.
You see, Bill? It's like this. There's no business like show business.